Good morning. My name is Jacobi, and I'd like to thank you for watching my presentation for the presidential elections for September 5th. This last term has been a very interesting and unique time for our nation's history. We started this term with exactly one territory remaining, that would be Ontario, and it was 12 hours into this term that we lost Ontario in overtime to France. So we started off pretty much at the beginning of this month being wiped off the map. And when you look at how we started and where we are today, it really makes me very, very proud of being Canadian, and very proud of all the hard work that every single one of you has put in to go from one region, which was on the verge of falling, to now today. Not only is that region back, not only is Quebec back, Alberta back, BC back, Nova Scotia back, those 5 major provinces we used to have, but we're well on our way to taking the remaining 5. And that's with the help of our allies and with the help of Canadians in the military, out of the military, who've all banded together and made this possible. But we have to look too, in this presidential election, at what sort of future we want to build. We've got a new Canada. We've got this rebirth of our country, and we've got a war that has lasted for longer than 50 days at this point, that has taught us, I think, a lot about who we are as a country and about where we want to go. And for me as president, the way that I look at this job, I look at it as partly as an administrator. You administrate a cabinet. You make sure that they are doing the things that they need to do in order to move the country forward. If they're not, then you have to look at perhaps switching around or replacing them. If they are, as a lot of them are, and I really have to say I've been blessed with a superb and excellent cabinet. And I'm proud of every single member of the cabinet that's worked under me. It's really been fantastic. You have to look at the administrative side of the job, but you also look at the foreign affairs, or the face of Canada that the president is. And that's something that's been really important in the last month, as we were, for a period of 3 or 4 days, completely off the map. We were a country without a country. And it was our allies, and it was this relationship that we had built up over several months with our allies, with Sweden, with Finland, with Croatia, with Romania, with the United States, with Spain, that allowed us to go from absolutely nothing to being able to look at rebuilding our economy at this point, being able to look at the war actually being the end in sight. So the presidency, as far as I'm concerned, is divided between those two positions. Now, part of the presentation of what a president should be doing over the next term is looking at what room for improvement we have in our country. Now, there's 3 things that I'd like to concentrate on during this term, and they can be broadly defined as constitutional reform, military and foreign affairs reform, and on domestic reform. And to talk a little bit about constitutional reform, as a background note, in the June election, I ran against Alexander Reardon, and his major platform proposal was on constitutional reform, because in his opinion, the Constitution needed to be fixed. It was broken. And if that was his opinion 3 months ago, I'd say pretty much everyone shares that opinion now. When we looked at how the Constitution fared in the war, it was ignored by the executive branch, it was ignored by myself, by my cabinet, it was ignored by the legislative branch, it was, for the most part, made up as you go during this war, because there was no provisions for emergencies, and there was no ability for us to follow the Constitution and maintain an effective war effort. So when I look at a Constitution for the reborn Canada, I look at something that needs to have 3 things. It needs to be able to withstand changes in the game, so that every time the administration turns around, one of our sections in the Constitution is not voided, as it has been before. It needs to be able to survive wartime. It needs to have emergency provisions for things that the president can and cannot do that are different from peacetime. It also needs to create a system of government that best serves Canadian players. Our system of government was set up in an era where there were about 200 active players and maybe 2,000 total players tops in Canada. Now we have about 5,000 players and about 1,000 active players. And in a system like that, we're going to need a different government. When it comes to our military and foreign affairs for the coming term, we're primarily talking about the terms to end this war, what our future alliance prospects are, and what we need to do to integrate new players into our military organization. For the terms to end this war, I've been quite plain and quite clear. Until Canada gets back all of its homeland regions, and until Canada's allies get back all of its homeland regions, there can be no end to this war. Anything less would be a defeat, and for Canada, defeat is not an option. For our future alliance prospects, in my opinion, only one alliance meets our future security interests. The Eden Alliance has sacrificed much for Canada, both when it was under attack and when we sought to reclaim our homeland regions. Eden has shown time and time again that they will stand up for Canada, and it is my hope that we are able to join Eden as a full member and show that we are able to stand up for them too. Finally, we need to look at ways in which our new players can join our military organizations, even though they may not yet be able to join the CAF. In my opinion, the best way of going about this is by recreating the Canadian Rangers. This would be a group primarily of new players, but anyone who wanted to go into a lighter, more relaxed environment, but yet wanted to be a part of our military organization when it comes to the liberation of Canada. The Canadian Rangers may or may not include Brooks Canucks or the Canadian Resistance Movement, but they will be set up so that anyone who joins the Canadian Rangers will be able to participate in our military movements, will be able to be a part of our government and a part of Canadian military without all of the rules and all of the benefits of being a member of the CAF. The final part of my presentation is concerned with the domestic reforms that I wish to enact in my fourth term, the most major of that being the Ministry of Education. This will be a ministry run by Bullius that will be charged with compiling and distributing information for new players in order to help them better play eRepublic and to increase their activity on IRC, on the boards, and in-game. I'll also be looking at changing the structure of cabinet, making it more efficient and more responsive, creating the position of a chief of staff to increase communication between myself and members of the Canadian public. As well, looking at different ways in how we can communicate and organize ourselves more effectively in government so that we can be more efficient with our time. I'd like to thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope that when it comes time for September 5th, you look forward to what we can do as Canadians, to the future that awaits us, and make your decision on who's best to lead us into the coming month. Again, thank you for your time, and have a good day.